Good morning. My name is Joanne Conroy, and I'm the President and CEO of Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health. And welcome to the Youth Summit 2019. I'm really excited to see so many students and advisors here from so many high schools across the state. Before we begin today's program, I just want to say how impressed I am with the commitment that all you have made to bring your voices into the room and talk about the important issues. And the fact that this summit was actually inspired by you, your response to Justice Broderick, who has visited many of your high schools across the state, and talking about really important issues that sometimes if you're not living in your world and walking in your shoes, we all are not aware of or appreciate the impact it has on how you're feeling and how you're dealing with many of the stresses that you face every day. We know that we'll all learn a lot from you today. In fact, I think most of the day is designed for us to just get out of your way and have you start to tell us the things that we need to do in order to help you. And tomorrow, we're going to share the output of today, and we will be meeting with educators, parents, legislators, and community members who are going to come and listen. And they are authentically interested in the issues that I am sure you will identify today. Before I turn the microphone over to Governor Sununu, who'll make some welcoming remarks, I want to read a short letter from another dedicated public servant who cares very much about New Hampshire's youth, Senator Jean Shaheen. She sent the following letter for me to share with you, and she is sorry that she's unable to attend the event today. Dear students and friends, I wish I could join you at this week's Dartmouth-Hitchcock Youth Summit. Please know that I'm there in spirit as you come together to share your thoughts and perspectives on the pressures you face as teenagers each and every day. Thank you for your honesty and for your courage to engage in these tough conversations. This youth-led summit is an opportunity for students to drive discussion around issues, pressures, and problems that apply to you and your peers. It's a platform that not only connects you with others as you all navigate the challenges of young adulthood, it also helps the caring adults in your life better understand what you're going through as a teenager in the modern world. The pace of change is quick, and the adversities that they face in middle and high school can look very different from the stresses and burdens of today. Footnote, that's an understatement. A candid talk with your parents and your peers would show just how much support you have in finding solution to these challenges. I visited with students from Dover High School last month, and I came away inspired and impressed by their eagerness to engage with their peers and the broader community in an effort to curb e-cigarette use. They came together and developed youth-driven solutions to an important issue in their school. You're doing the same thing at this week's summit. Your energy, spirit, and leadership are to be recognized and commended. I look forward to seeing what will come of today's conversation. My best wishes to you all in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Jean Shaheen, United States Senate. So our thanks to Dr. Shaheen for sending along her thoughts on this important day. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our Governor, Chris Sununu, to the podium.
Well, good morning. You are not in biology, for God's sakes. Good morning. Trust me, this is going to be a great day. A lot better than being, I don't want to say stuck in school. School's a good place. But frankly, I'm going to be a little bit selfish having you guys here in Concord with a program like this is just phenomenal. It is a huge asset to us, and it's a huge part of us making the right steps forward. Concord can do a lot of things, but unless we're talking to the right people, it doesn't really matter. Unless we're talking to stakeholders, we're talking to folks that are living it, we can come up with some good ideas, but not necessarily the right ideas. So having this input is just so incredibly important. I don't want to sit here and glom on too much, but I do want to talk about a couple quick things, and I'm going to be a little bit glossy at 30,000 feet, but you're going to talk about a lot of issues today, right? You're going to talk about, whether it's, I call them the toxic stresses, peer pressure, bullying, drugs, opioids, mental health issues, all these things that in the past basically 5 to 10 years have really gotten quite extreme, not just here in New Hampshire, but across the country, and we see how that plays out. It's tough to have those conversations. The fact that you guys are here, willing to talk about it from a very real, personal perspective, it really makes all the difference in the world. We're focusing a lot on mental health right now in this state. The state's doing really well, right? Our economy is really, really strong. And what that means, why that's so important, is that it allows us at the state level to have funds, to have resources, to put to a lot of these issues right now. And that's the opportunity. Now, if we're not hearing the input the way we need to hear it, we could spend that money in 100 different ways. So we kind of have one shot here to get it right. And we're focusing a lot on mental health issues. We finally have a 10-year mental health plan. We're moving forward. We're not waiting. It's a 10-year mental health plan, but we're not waiting 10 years. We're doing like half of it in year 1 because we have the opportunity to do that. We finally, when we talk about drugs and opioids, a lot of folks know how passionate I am there. We're frankly rebuilding the whole system here. Right? We're rebuilding the whole system in terms of drug addiction, everything from our new hub and spoke model across the state. So how many of you from north of Concord? Right? So I remind people there's a lot of, in Concord, there's a lot of folks that live north of Concord in more rural areas of the state, and we have to have support systems that right now don't exist, but we're building them. We're putting those resources out there to the new hub and spoke model. We finally have an adolescent treatment facility in this state. For God's sakes, we went decades without an adolescent treatment facility, and we finally just opened one up in Manchester, which is terrific. It's one of those things where you make the investment hoping you never have to use it. But we do. We know, unfortunately, we have to be there. We have a lot of folks that have been traveling the state. You're going to hear from Justice Broderick later, telling his personal story. You hear from a lot of folks telling their personal stories. One of the stories I talk about a lot, which hit me really hard, hit home with me, was the story of Scarlett Lewis. And if you haven't heard my story of meeting Scarlett, Scarlett lost her son, her first grader, Jesse, in the murders at Sandy Hook. And out of that horrible tragedy of watching and having to live through her first grader get murdered, she said, I'm going to do something to make sure this doesn't happen, to make sure that this isn't an epidemic. And she created what she calls the Choose Love program, which is essentially social emotional learning. And we became the first state to embrace that as a state, saying we're going to start putting these programs back into schools so that there's an outlet, so that kids with problems don't become kids in crisis, so that we're there as a support structure, which frankly, a support structure that has been eroded over the past 2 or 3 decades. We're finally going to start building that back up. But if we don't have your input, if we don't know what's going on in the hallways of those classrooms or back in your homes, if we don't have a sense of what those barriers and needs are, there's a lot of ways to do it, but it doesn't mean we're going to do it right. So it's really important just to have you guys here and talking, as candid as you're willing to talk. I just want to take a second. I was thinking about this coming in. As a dad, I got a 13 and a 14-year-old. I call it middle school mania. It's tough. It's like an emotional whirlwind every day, right, for my kids, because there's a lot going on and they're kind of in those formative years. And my one son's about to go to high school. My daughter's going to her first dance tonight. Had that whole discussion last night. Oh boy, right? You guys have been there. Now I've been there. But there's so much more than just what's going on in the classroom or what you see on the surface, right? It's hard for adults sometimes to really make that connection understanding. One thing I want to make a plea to you for, and this is something that we cannot solve. If anything, I'm one of the youngest governors in the country, but I'll tell you, this is one thing that my generation really screwed up badly, was social media and the ability to responsibly use technology. I use social media all the time. I'm on it 3 or 4 times a day, but I will tell you, it is the bane of human existence. It's horrible. Somehow we've convinced ourselves that we can say whatever we want on social media if we're not looking somebody in the eye. And, Calvin, my son Calvin, he'll be on his Xbox and stuff, and he's talking to his friends on his Xbox. It's all good. But, I mean, even when I played video games 20 years ago, at least you sat in the same room. You don't do that anymore. In fact, the Xbox isn't even really designed like that, I realized. So there's this whole thing about just personal connection that is really becoming eroded I don't know how to fix it. And I don't even know if you know how to fix it. But we're really counting on you to fix it. Really. Because the more ability we have to build one-on-one connections, personal connections with each other, it helps us understand how we work out problems, how we team build, how we problem solve, how we deal with stresses. It's really hard to deal with stresses when you're sitting alone in a room. A lot of you have been there. A lot of us have been there. It's pure detachment, and we know where that goes. Detachment is in some ways one of the worst things you can have for an individual, as a young adult or an adult. And unfortunately, technology has allowed us to become so detached from one another. And I'm a firm believer that's at the fundamental root of the breakdown and the cause of a lot of these issues that we see and how they manifest themselves into drug use, into violence, into whatever the issue might be. We're in a really good time in this state. There's no doubt about it. That means we have a lot of opportunity. And when I talk about like issues of abused kids or homelessness, even in great times, you can walk down the streets of Portsmouth and you wouldn't even think that we have a homelessness issue. Tonight, 500 kids will be homeless in New Hampshire. We have the strongest economy, the lowest poverty rate in the country, in the most economically advanced country in the planet. So, I mean, we are at the pinnacle of the pinnacle, and we're still going to have 500 kids that are probably homeless tonight, either on the streets or couch surfing, whatever it is. The system isn't working for them. That's not their fault. That's our fault, right? We've let barriers in the system come between us and getting them the services they need. It's not just about money. It's about really having an understanding of what drove them, understanding of their personal stories. That's what you guys are here for today, right? As much as you're willing, share those personal stories. They are so important. They help drive our prevention programs. They help drive our programs that we're going to invest in. This is not about a bunch of 424 legislators and one governor walking around the State House talking to themselves, trying to think up answers for this crisis that we have. We don't have the answers, but we're really good tools for you to use to help the state get where we need to be. And not just for tomorrow, but for 5 and 10 and 20 years down the road. That's what we're here for. Help us design a long-term infrastructure and a system that actually gets outcomes, actually gets the results we're looking for. I can go back to the State House and approve $10 million for a program. Whoop, we checked the box, great. What did it do? What did that do? Now, if we can show that it's going to do something and get an outcome and get a product and actually make things better, then that's when we can finally pat ourselves on the back and say it's great. As a politician, I'm telling you, keep us accountable, right? Really, don't trust. Well, trust but verify. When it comes to all of your elected officials, I really mean that. I'm the first one to tell you as the governor, don't necessarily trust the government to come in and say, don't worry, we'll take care of everything. It doesn't work like that. You should really be skeptical, right? But when we have groups like this and opportunities like this to actually move the ball forward with your voice and a place where you can say, well, I told that story and I saw that happen because of it at a statewide level, it's amazing. I'm looking around the room. I don't know if anyone is here from the I Got Your Back program. It's an anti-bullying program. A little girl came up with this idea. And she spread it to her classroom and then spread it to her school, and now it's going viral, and now it's in other schools. One little girl did that. And they came and they talked to me, and now we're promoting it, statewide. And it doesn't mean that program works for everybody in every school, but we're driving it. One little girl did that, right? Your voice means a lot, and if you wouldn't be here if you didn't actually believe in it. It's my job to make sure that we make sure it's a reality. Thank you guys for being here. Keep us on the ball. And the last thing I'm gonna promote really quick. I tend to jabber. I'm sorry. I'm a jabbering governor. This is not a one-day event. It is not a two-day event. This is a 365-day-a-year event. And we all have to carry that mentality, I think, back to our classrooms, back to our families, back to our friends, right? What is the next step? You're giving a lot. You're putting a lot of energy in here. That's great. And we don't expect you to give 110% every single day. That's too much to ask and expect of anyone. But think about what is the next step, both for yourselves and for us, so that next week we're talking about it, and the week after we're talking about it, and we're keep the ball moving forward. Otherwise, if you leave it to government, we stall. It's easy to fall back into our silos, right? Oh, we did a good thing. We showed up for a couple days. We had some words. We approved the funding, did a policy. We're on to the next thing. Don't let us do that. And in many ways, you have to not do that. Keep it alive in your communities. Keep talking about it, and keep letting us know simply how we make the system better. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Governor. I have this visual, though, of you waiting on the porch for your daughter when she comes back for her dance. He said he'll be there. I'm sure he will. It's really exciting and inspiring to have so many of those who represent the future of New Hampshire with us in the room today. You've got people that can actually make things happen, that are absolutely authentically interested in your thoughts and your ideas. Now it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Jim Wahlberg to you. Jim is the Executive Director of the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation, and Jim has also produced a number of films centered around the issue of substance use disorder. His company, Wall Street Productions, released If Only in 2015, and since then, the film has been shown to hundreds of thousands of people in communities across the country. He's currently working with the DEA through a series of youth opioid summits to bring If Only to areas of the country that are most devastated by the opioid epidemic. Jim, through Wall Street Productions, continues to produce films designed to keep the focus on this important issue. And last year released their latest film, The Circle of Addiction, A Different Kind of Tears. You're going to see a lot of Jim today. He agreed to be your master of ceremonies and will be our guide to the agenda throughout the day. We are very appreciative to him for taking on that role. So please join me in welcoming Jim Wahlberg to the stage.
Hello. It's also Be Kind to Jim Wahlberg Day, okay? This is my least favorite thing in the world to do. I want to thank the governor. You guys really, maybe you do, I'm not sure if you do, how lucky you are to have Governor Sununu as your voice. He's an amazing man, and he really cares about the issues, and he understands the issues. And I also want to thank you for talking a lot, because you took up all my time, and I do not want to be up here. I'm wicked nervous, as they say in Boston. I want to just say before we get started how thoroughly impressed I am with this gathering, and how thoroughly impressed I am with the grown-ups in the room, that they're smart enough to understand how much smarter you all are than us, right? And we're going to be discussing some very difficult and complex issues, but I'm 100% confident that the answers come from you. They're not going to come from us. They're not coming this way. They got to come up. You guys got to teach us and help us to understand about the difficulties that you're faced with every day. So they gave me a bunch of cards, and they highlighted them because I don't read very well, and I'm still not going to be good at it. But they want me to start by thanking our sponsors. So there are tables outside around the room. These things don't happen without sponsorship. They do not happen without money. This is an expensive undertaking, and these companies were willing to put their money where their mouths were to make this happen. So if you get a chance, make sure you thank them, okay? Everybody has a badge on, yeah? Okay, so let's do this. I can eliminate about 6 of these cards. Take the badge out, turn it over, look on the back. It tells you where you're going, when you're going, how you're going. It also gives you the Wi-Fi information, which the first thing I do when I walk in any place is I'm looking for the Wi-Fi and the password, right? So there it is. There's gonna be a lot of interactive things going on, okay? We're gonna ask questions. You're gonna pull out your phones. They're gonna let you have your phone in your hand, right? That's pretty cool, right? So there's gonna be some interaction. You're gonna get immediate answers. We're gonna see how you guys think, and we're gonna look at the percentages of who thinks what, and then discuss those issues, okay? So, back of the badges, okay? If you look at the back of your badge, if you're anything like me, I'm looking at the back of the badge, I'm reading it upside down, I can't make sense of it because I'm old, you're not like me in that respect. There are people, who are my volunteers? See, there's people around with, that says staff on the back of their black t-shirts, okay? Any questions, ask them, they'll tell you where to go and what to do. At 12:35, we're gonna get some lunch. I'm looking at the schedule. You guys are here, I hope you have some fun, but there's work to be done. right? And you guys are going to be working. In fact, according to this, you're going to be working through lunch. You're going to go, you're going to get your food, you're going to come back, and you're going to start to get some results. You're going to start to get some information and some, I'm looking at the people that are coming, that are going to be here, that are going to speak to you. Hannah Kearney, Olympic gold medal skier. Nice. I love skiing. I've never done it. Do they ski up here, Governor? Is a little skiing going on up here? A little bit, okay. And then Wendy Sue Swanson, AKA Seattle Mama. She is an expert in social media and using social media for good. Using social media for good, okay? I know there's people looking at me and there's clocks, but I want to tell you that social media is like this illusion, right, of everything is great and everything is beautiful and I'm doing better than you and you're not doing as good as me and look at all my fancy stuff, right? It's such a waste of what we could be using it for, right? And some people are using it for good. And we can change the world using social media, but instead we want to tell everybody about our fancy shoes, right? This is an opportunity for you guys. And this is also an opportunity, you know, New Hampshire, the primaries happen here. Everything happens here. This is the hotbed for politics here, right? This is also, this can be the spearhead of being the hotbed for information and answers about these very complex issues, okay? So we can start leading the country in many other ways. The instant polls, so like I said, you're going to see answers up here, and then all of the information will also be on the Dartmouth-Hitchcock website. Okay, so I guess at this point, we're going to head off to our groups. Yeah, is everybody in their current group? So everybody is where they're supposed to be right now, and that is amazing. I'm very impressed with that. Okay, so I ran way over my time, so we're going to talk again in a little bit, and thank you.